of his way. So while I do, James has left his elephant and now is enjoying his afternoon stroll.
And from one spider to another, I nearly showed that spider and Wendy the other day as well, but I got distracted by something else. I thought this was a young garden orbweb spider at one stage, but it isn't. It's a different kind of spider, and I don't know exactly what kind of spider it is, but it's an orbweb of some description, and it's created its orb over here, and it's got quite a lot of repair work to do. We may just have sort of disturbed it in the process of creating its web, perhaps for the evening. It might be a bark spider of some description. I can't... yeah, it's here. There we are. And, well, we did leave those elephants because they were heading sort of kind of towards us. And the bush just was getting thicker and thicker, and it became impossible to see them from that termite mound, and therefore it became slightly dangerous, because you really do need to know where the elephants are if you're going to view them safely. So we've come through the valley of the Umluamati, and we're enjoying, as Jamie said, absolutely a gorgeous afternoon here. And we found this little spider sitting on an Acacia girardii plant. And for those of you who don't know, Acacia girardii is the red thorn. And the reason it's called the red thorn, of course, is because it's got heavy concentrations of tannins in the bark. So heavy that it turns the bark red on the young shoots. So if you look over here, you can see that these shoots are red. And that's from the tannin in the bark, and that tannin is so high in concentration that apparently the early settlers around here used to use the bark for tanning leather. Now, I've read that 100 times. I still do not understand one iota of what tanning leather actually means. Do you have any idea? I don't know what it means. I know it's done. And it makes leather look less like a cow's hide and more like my shoes. But how it becomes that and how this tannin here is inundated into the leather, I'm really not sure. I can only assume that there is perhaps some beating involved, of course, because many of us were subjected to the threats of having our hides tanned during our school days. Mercifully, I was not subjected to too many hide tannings. I know a few people who were. I know a few people who should have been perhaps tanned a little bit more than they were, myself included. Okay, let's keep going along here. I did see a closed flower that I wanted to talk about. I have now lost it, though. Let's keep going up through here. We're slowly beginning the little winding way home because the sun is starting to set, but we've got another 45 minutes or so, I reckon. I just want to quickly see if I can find that flower. It was a hibiscus flower of some description, but I see that there are none of them. Now, let's go over here and look at this thing here. This is the tree called Strychnos madagascarensis, and I think there's something interesting going on in their lives, the lives of the Strychnos madagascarensis. I wouldn't say it comes close to being as interesting as the lives of Thandi and Thamba, or the two Cheetah brothers, or indeed the Nkuhuma Pride. But to the individuals of the population that is Strychnos madagascarensis, it perhaps is. I think that because of the drought and the lack of grass competition around the rootstock, and then a good rainy season, I think these things have taken off. And there are parts of this reserve that 2 years ago I could walk through quite easily, and they were sort of around knee height, and they're now up around my head. And this is an encroaching species, and to me it's representative of the fact that when people tell me there are too many elephants around, I scoff at them. Trees like this are maintained in check only through the presence of very large grazing animals, browsing animals, and those include, of course, largely elephants. And without enough elephants, they will become, unfortunately, far more thick than they should be otherwise. Good. Let us head across to Jamie, who apparently is searching for my elephants. I'm not sure how she knew where they were. Perhaps Rexon told her. That's good. They're on Battalier Road, I think, and hopefully she'll have some luck there.
Ah, they're on Battalier Road. In that case, I had no idea where they were, and I'm going in the wrong direction. I didn't actually know where they were, but I did plan on going to go and find them. Alright, well, we'll take the long way round to James's elephants. Megs, he did say Battalier, right? I did hear that correctly. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Meg. I know exactly where he means. Hey, this is pretty. Don't jump down, don't jump down, don't jump down. Hello. Here we go. That's a kudu-filled afternoon. Giving us an example of the fluffy white tail that almost all antelope have. Here we go. All animals, well, at least all herbivores, will enjoy spending time feeding on the top of termite mounds. First of all, gives them a really nice vantage point to spot any sneaky predators that might be trying to make their way towards them. And secondly, the grasses and the plants that grow there benefit from the added nutrients that the termites bring up from lower levels of the soil. The plants are extra specially nutritious, but kudu in particular, especially young kudu like these two, they like to play on termite mounds. I've seen them before chase each other round and round and round and round, and I'm sort of hoping that these two might give us a demonstration of that behavior. It's so lovely when you watch antelope play, because they have to take life so seriously. They need to be constantly alert, constantly aware of what's going on around them. So to see them doing something frivolous like that, I find special. We don't often get to see it. Now, Kylie, you'd like to know what the difference is between a kudu and nyala, and that's a very valid question because they're probably the antelope that get confused the most out here. They belong to the same family, and in both kudu and nyala, only the males have horns. Now, the big difference is the size. Kudu are much larger, and then in terms of the color between kudu and nyala, the kudu are a sort of a more brownish color. Hello, another head popping up. They're a brownish color, whereas the female nyala have a reddish tinge to their coat with the white stripes and then spots as well. Whereas kudu really only have stripes on their sides. You don't often see kudu with spots on their rumps. See? It's only stripes. Nyala have stripes and spots. So it's a very common cause for confusion. Slight difference in the body shape. Kudu are slightly more elongated. Nyala bull, on the other hand, is something that is unmistakable with their dark grey colour and their very shaggy coat. Right, it seems as though James is still following his elephants and he's found one for you.
Well, we weren't following it at all. I think it was just happened to be in our path. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the same young bull that we saw earlier. He's way across this very deep ravine, which is, as I was saying earlier, a really good way to view elephants. And let's just move, I think let's move down this way with him. We're really having a wonderful time here with these elephants. Vaping Raven, you're wondering what the elephant will do if it sees us. I don't know if you were there when we had our first elephant sighting. It almost certainly did see us. Just moved away. just moved away quietly. Just depends on also what kind of elephant it is. If it's a young bull like this, he'll most likely just move off. If it's a big cantankerous bull in must, well then you're going to be a lot more careful, and because he could come and look for you, depending on how irritated he is. And if it was a big herd of elephants like the ones there, if they felt threatened enough, then absolutely a female would come towards you, which obviously you don't want. Now I can't find... This chap's headed off into the thick bush there. Just hear him eating there. Let's walk just a little bit down here. Because we have the protection offered by this ravine, we can go a little bit closer. Zoe, you're saying, have I ever been charged by an elephant? I have. A few times. Largely in vehicles though, and largely when I was a very young guide. And when the elephants of this area were more recently out of what we call the cull. So in 1996 they stopped killing elephants here as a matter of sort of management, if you like. And when I started guiding in 2000, the scars of that culling was still very, very raw, and that made the elephants very upset. But time has built trust again between us and the elephants, and so the chances of being chased and flattened now are much smaller than they were when I began guiding, but they are always there, and you can see probably from my body language and hear from my voice. Don't take any chances. Seb, if you can come here, it would be really nice, because there's a beautiful view down in here. Shall I... Ah, yes, and there's a terrapin shell over there. Yeah, come here first, I think. Try not to fall over myself. But there's just a really... We can't see the elephant, but you can see what they've been doing here. You can see down there, they've been digging. Isn't that cool? So those holes there, they've dug for water. They do not like the dirty water of the pans. They only like the fresh water of the riverbeds if they can get it. It's quite a deep hole. I mean, it's probably difficult to tell from where you are, but that's about 3.5 feet deep. Dug with foot and trunk and tusk sometimes, but normally just foot and trunk. They must get a lot of sand in their noses and mouths, I imagine, but they don't seem to mind that too much. Right, this elephant's gone, but Seb found something quite interesting just behind us here. And it is the shell of the Speke's hinged tortoise, which unfortunately I think was probably eaten either by a hyena or a badger, and definitely not a ground hornbill, because the shell is not cracked in the same way that it would be. But just have a look here at the growth points, at where these scoots, this is a scoot, and look at how they stick together with each other. And as I always say to you, or often say, it amazes me at how this thing has been put together by evolution, and how it's so perfectly arranged that all of the scoots can grow and maintain the shape of the terrapin or the tortoise. It's the same on each, and I just think that's phenomenal. And it's got a very strange looking insect living in it. What do you think that is? Looks like a very small... It's a mantis. That is a mantis. Can you believe it? I've no idea what kind of mantis it is. I'm not sure if even the greatest mantis expert in the world would know what kind of mantis that was. You see it there, Seb? Yeah. And I know it's a mantis because it's got its 2 front feet held out in front of it in supplication, saying its prayers as mantises are wont to do. What it eats, I suspect, are probably ants that come crawling along here, and it will grab them, and it's got a wonderful little shelter to live in, although it looks a bit drafty, I think, if you look through it like that. I imagine that this mantis probably doesn't mind a draft. I wouldn't live in there. Would you live in there, Seb? I don't think you would. Don't think your wife and child would live in there either. I think they'd be deeply dissatisfied by it. Alrighty, on we go. I think Tristan is still on standby for the predating Thandi, so we're going to move away, head towards home, and, well, he'll keep you updated on what's going on with the cat.
We will indeed, and hopefully we'll be able to go and see these leopards now, and we won't have too many issues. It sounds like we can slowly start making our way, but what we're doing at the moment is we're just really driving down the runway. Now, I think that we might have to pump up Rusty's right tire at some point, because Ferg is busy flying there, but if I had to try and fly Ferg, we might write ourselves off, because watch how the vehicle just goes to the right. Here we go. Definitely wheel alignment is not good on this particular situation. Now Ferg is flying like he's on the Titanic on the back here. It is quite entertaining to watch him. Ferg, do we need to get you a Kate Winslet?
We're looking, eh?
We're looking.
Always, hope springs eternal.
Hope springs eternal. Well, Ferg, I'm hoping that your Kate Winslet arrives at some point, but please don't do that with me on the vehicle. I don't want to see the two of you Titanicking on the back here. Now, hopefully these leopards are somewhere close by and that they are not too mobile. It seems like they're not far from here, so don't even have to turn the wheel. We'll just turn the corner by ourselves at this stage. Rusty knows where we're going. It's like on autopilot. As long as we keep going right, we should be fine. Now, oh, what a beautiful evening it's going to be though, the sunset. It's still freezing cold and windy, but if that sun drops down below these clouds, we're going to have the most spectacular, beautiful gold light that's going to illuminate these puffy, sort of candy floss-like clouds. Now, I'm not sure if everyone knows what candy floss is. Well, here in South Africa, for us, candy floss is a sort of spun sugar. Is that what it is, Ferg? Is that the right way to describe it? Yes, spun sugar I think is the best way, and it kind of comes out as this sort of fluffy ball, and the clouds look a little bit like that. But isn't it pretty as we go along? Now I must just let Peter know that I'm on the going towards the 2-track. So, Lenny, you're wondering when are tracks harder to spot? Well, midday, Lenny. Midday and middle of the night are the two times that tracks are really not very easy to see. And the reason for that is because there is no shadow on them. This time of the day and early morning, it's a lot easier because you're able to actually get a sort of contrast, and a lower light gives you a bit of a shadow. So you can actually see it here. If we look in front, you can see that there is a sort of shadow that gets cast on the actual track there, and it shows up quite easily. So we're using the tire tracks as an example for this, and so it will be the same for lion or leopard or any of those kind of things. As soon as the light gets very, very high, it all kind of compresses and becomes just one even light, and it then becomes really tough to actually see them. So that's how tracks sort of working at night. It's just because we can't really see. Our eyes are not designed to work at night, and that's why we battle. Now I've got to just try and find where Thandi and Thamba actually are. They're somewhere in this area, but I've got to just try and find them. So we're going to just try and give the guys a shout on the radio. Apparently they're just off to the west here somewhere. I'm just trying to find the 2-track that goes in. I'm on Mike's Kitchen. I'm just trying to find the track going in, Monet. Okay, copy. Thank you. I'll be there in 2 minutes. So they're just giving me a better direction, because the first direction I got was right here at this big open area, and as we can see there is no vehicles and no leopard. Now it's just a little bit further west of where we are, so we've got to take this road coming up. Now I've forgotten the name of this road now. I think it's Brown Ivory East, I think is the, if I remember, Brown Ivory West, sorry, Brown Ivory West is the name of the road. Now we're just going to bypass Peter. Bye bye Peter, careful your car. Peter almost reversed into us because he wasn't watching what he was doing. That wouldn't have been a very good situation. I think they don't know how hard Rusty is. Rusty looks like a Land Rover that might be soft, but Rusty is a serious champion and would have smashed the back end of their cruiser, so he's got to be a bit careful with that kind of thing. Now, where are you, Thandi? So Lenny, you're wondering if a leopard is endangered. Well, I suppose to a degree, yes. Their numbers are declining quite a bit, but they're still the most widely spread big cats of this whole area. So you still see them a lot. Oh, I see them. Do you see what I see, Ferg? This is exciting, because not only is it a leopard, but it is a leopard in a tree. Do you see it in front, everybody? Look at that. Draped over the branches of a marula. It doesn't get much better than that. So we've got a leopard sprawled out beautifully. Now, hopefully Thamba is also here. I know that Thandi is definitely here, but I'm not 100% sure if Thamba is here. So let's have a little look quickly. But that is a sight for sore eyes, a leopard hanging from a marula tree, that's for sure. So I'm going to just try and get in here. Now, Ferg, I'm going to park this side in case she moves ahead, because if she does, the light will be absolutely amazing. So there we go. It looks like Thandi up in the tree itself. I can't see any sign of Thamba, but that is the quintessential leopard shot, and you can see she is perfectly sprawled over that branch, her back legs over each side, which just helps her to balance, and then her paw up underneath this head for a bit of a pillow to rest on. And isn't that amazing? That is, like I say, as good as it gets when it comes to a leopard, that's for sure. They really are the most beautiful animals, and when they sit in a tree like this, it really doesn't get any better. Now, hopefully she's going to just lift her head and turn it towards us. It seems that she's still more interested on the other side, and often you'll find with these leopards is that they have a really good nap in a tree like this, and they actually sometimes don't really care too much to actually turn their head even when a vehicle approaches. So I'm not sure if she will, but we'll give it a little moment, and if she doesn't, then we'll just reposition ourselves and see if we don't get a better sort of view of her head. But that is beautiful, and the color of that coat, that sort of deep gold color on that dark branch, it just really is the most beautiful thing to see. When you sort of see this for the first time, it just takes your breath away as a leopard sort of sits in a tree like this. And it amazes me that they're able to actually get up there and spend their sort of time up there, and that they make it look so comfortable. Must be very windy up there though. I'm surprised that they're up in conditions like this. I don't see a carcass anywhere in this tree, so it's not that they're up there for food, but I wonder if this isn't Thamba. Just judging by those ears are perfectly round, so I wonder if it isn't him. Not easy to tell when you're looking at the back of a head of a leopard, but it does look like it could be Thamba's ears. Thandi's a little bit older, and so she does have a few little nicks and cuts in her ears in places, and a bit of wear and tear as she's gone through the paces, and so maybe that's why we can't sort of, why I think it is Thamba. Also, that coat is very dark. Tough to say though. I'm just surmising at this stage. I also can't see any sign of the genitals, which would be an indicating factor if it was Thandi or Thamba. I'm going to try and see if I can't just find a better position here. It doesn't seem like she's going to turn to face us at this stage. So I wonder if there's not a better place that we can park ourselves. Just trying to wait for the other vehicles to get themselves sorted out and to get themselves settled. So, James, you're wondering if leopards are mostly nocturnal. Well, I suppose they do have periods of activity at night, but they're actually what is called crepuscular. Now, crepuscular animals are animals that are active around sunset and sunrise, so a leopard's peak activity is at those times. So this time of the day is when they start to kind of wake up, and they'll move around just before sunset, and then in a few hours after sunset, and then again around the same thing at sunrise. So they move around in those periods, and then during the middle of the night, they're actually quite sort of docile. They tend to do a bit of sleeping in the middle of the night and actually don't move too much at all. Now, once that vehicle is settled, I'm going to just try and move around and see if we can't get a better view. Hopefully we'll be able to see in underneath this vegetation. Ferg, let's try and see if we can't see the face, so we can just find out exactly who this is. Because there was reports of Thandi, there was reports of Thamba, there was reports of both. So I want to try and see if I can't see exactly who this is. But difficult to say at this stage from, like I say, looking at the back of the head. Now, I must apologize yesterday when we had Nkanyeni, what I said was Nkanyeni, it wasn't Nkanyeni. Afterwards, I went and had a look, and James Richard very kindly pointed out that it was indeed Kuchava, which is Taylor's favorite leopard. So, oh no, did you just turn your head? No, you didn't. I thought for a second there she might have turned her head, but we're going to just try and pull up a little bit. There we go. How's that, Ferg? Is that better? So Ferg, we have to keep Ferg happy, and that's the one that we've got to try and talk to and make sure that he's got a good angle. But isn't that beautiful? Absolutely marvelous. Now, we are using a new camera, so Ferg is trying to get a hang of it. I know James was chatting about it this morning, and it's got a bit of a different focus system, so every now and then Ferg is just trying to get that right. So if it is a little bit sort of in and out, that is the reason why. But isn't that a serene sort of picture? Fast asleep. It actually does look like it could be Thandi. It is Thandi that is lying up in the tree. Now that I can actually see her a little bit better, it is her. I'm surprised at how intact her right ear is. It's not at all sort of nicked as I thought it was. Maybe the left ear's got one or two nicks in it, but her right ear is definitely okay. Now, it's a pity she's not facing the other way, because that light at the moment is gold, gold, gold on her. It would have been a beautiful, beautiful image had she turned and faced us on the other side. But now the fact that she's got her legs sprawled on either side of that branch, I'm pretty sure she's found the sort of better side to sleep. So, Vaping Raven, you say it looks like she needs to eat. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Her stomach looks quite bulgy to me. There's no sort of indent there at all. You can see, look, there's a sort of roundness to that. So she might not be absolutely packed full, but she's definitely not skinny by any stretch of the imagination. So she's not in bad condition, and certainly would be not in heavy need of a meal. I mean, she could eat a little bit, but she's not skinny by any stretch of the imagination. When you see around the back leg area, when there is a sort of no indent there, then you know that they are doing okay. So she's not looking too bad at all. But it's so nice against that sort of dark, stormy sky in the background. Very pretty. So Riti, you're wondering why leopards why leopards like to be on trees so much. Well, the reason for it is quite simple. Is that one is it's a place where they can get away from other predators, so it's a safety area, so they can get up into these trees and they can hide away from any other predator and get out of the way of other predators. Two, it's out of the grass, which means that it's out of range of ticks, flies, mites that might be around. And then three is it's a great place to be able to store food. So because a leopard is a slightly smaller cat than something like a lion, and it's also a similar size to what a hyena would be, it becomes very difficult for them to be able to keep food on the ground. And so they're able to then pull it up into trees, and because of that they then spend their time on top like this, where they're able to then sort of relax and take it very, very easy. But isn't that beautiful? Like I say, there's very few scenes that are as spectacular as a leopard in a tree. You can see that long tail that just helps them to balance. When they are climbing in and out of trees, that tail will move and counterweight them and just help them sort of keep their balance on these branches. It's actually sort of quite a phenomenal thing to watch leopards jump around trees, particularly if they're chasing something or if they're getting away from something like lions. You'll find they'll go into the narrowest of narrow branches, and how they keep their balance is all down to the fact that they have that longer tail, or longish tail, that helps them just to sort of counterbalance their body and helps them just sort of catch their weight a little bit and hold on. And they obviously then also have claws that help if they do decide to start sort of losing grip. They can get those claws in and be able to hold them. But this is really, really, really special. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time with Thandi, and hopefully Thamba will show up, and the scene is just getting more and more beautiful as the sun is dipping down, and I'm hoping she's going to turn her head and we'll be able to see her in that golden light. And while we do that, I believe Jamie is sitting with the largest animal that we have out here.
I am indeed, and I have James and Rexon to thank for a lovely elephant sighting in the setting sun. There's 2 bulls at the back that have been crashing around. I keep hoping they're going to come out this way, but they haven't yet. We have another female here, not our familiar stumpy trunk female, but a different female with a shortened trunk. And I have to be honest, I came to go to investigate and see, even though I knew that the chances were slim, to see whether or not Fang was in this area. I've never seen this elephant in Fang's herd before, so I think it's safe to assume that this isn't Fang's herd. I knew the chances were slim. I just wanted to give it a go. But I've never seen an elephant with a short trunk in Fang's herd before, not a young female like this. And she's missing quite a big portion of her trunk. You can just see the tips. See how she's adapted to feeding without the tip. It's more difficult for her. She certainly doesn't have the same level of coordination that an elephant with a complete trunk might have, but it is something that she's learned to get around. And for our new viewers, when we see elephants with short trunks like this, unfortunately, chances are that it is a man-induced injury. There's a very good chance that she caught her trunk in a snare, which would have been set up to catch antelope for food purposes. And it's a very, very sad consequence. Desperate people trying to get food to live off the land, but by setting up snares, they catch all sorts of unintended victims, including sometimes elephants. And that wouldn't have happened here where we are, but these elephants move all the way through the Kruger. They move up towards Mozambique. It's an old injury. We might not know exactly when she got it or how she received it, but we know that it's most likely man-made. Could have been a crocodile, but it's unlikely that it was. It's just a sad fact of reality that we have to face. Luckily, though, most elephants with short trunks very well adapted to basically cope with it. And they've learned different techniques for feeding. They know how to remedy the situation. And there's nothing you can do for her. Ah, here come our boys. I've been hearing them crashing around. It's the first time they've popped out. They've obviously been pushing and shoving each other all over the show. Look at you with your broken tusk. Oh, a cautionary glance from the female across to the males, just to warn them to stay out of her way and away from her young one. You don't want to upset a female elephant, is something we all know for certain. Alright, the evening is approaching. We're going to start making our way back towards those lines, but James has got a view of what promises to be a truly epic sunset.
Yes, it is a certainly already truly epic sunset, and as we look at the truly epic sunset, behold the epic figure of the great Rexon Ntimane walking into the sunset. And he has been a wonderful help today, helping us with those elephants. And I must confess, doing bushwalk without Herbert or Rexon these days, I think would be, well, infinitely poorer. We certainly used to do them without Rexon and Herbie. Our tracking was far worse, and dare I say it, I don't think our safety was particularly well looked after. Right, there we go. A gorgeous, gorgeous sunset going down behind a magnificent knobthorn tree, with the clouds gently floating up towards the north. And that's going to just turn golder and golder and golder. It might go orange and pink fairly soon as well, which will be wonderful. and hopefully we'll be able to show that to you. Let's keep going. And while we do that, we'll head back to Tristan with the sunset and a tree and something in the tree.
Indeed, isn't that beautiful? You can see there the paws hanging down as Thandi lounges while the sun goes down behind her. Is that not an epic way to finish an afternoon and to start a week? That really is a beautiful, beautiful scene. So we're being very, very spoilt this afternoon. There you go, she can see her lying with those nice sunset colours behind her. And so we've moved a little bit just so that we can at least get a beautiful picture of her. And she does have, looks like she has quite a full belly, so I would imagine that they would have eaten at some point. Now, Thamba is actually not too far away from us as well. We found him too. He is lying in the thick grass and is almost not visible at this stage of the game. He's just down in front of us, and this sort of scene of Thandi in the tree is definitely stealing the show at this stage. So if we pull back, Thamba is just here in front of me. So Ferg, if you look about there, should be where he is. Now, if anyone can spot him from there, I'd be quite impressed. But hopefully we'll find his little tail somewhere in there. Oh, difficult to see to the right, maybe, Ferg? Just shows you just how difficult it actually is to see him. More right. More right. Oh no, where's he gone now? He's somewhere in that grass. There, no, a little bit more to the right. No. More. That's me. No, we're too far then, we've got to go more left. Just shows you how difficult it is to actually... There he is. We got him now. There he is. So it just shows you how difficult it can be to find him. Now, this is Ferg's favourite leopard so far, according to him. This is the one that he really, really likes the most. So very, very cool to see him, and Ferg's definitely very happy. We might not have got his cheetah, but he's super excited to have the two leopards. So really is a beautiful time of the day, and I wonder if he's not going to go join mom. He's awake now, so I'm hoping that he might go and head up towards his mother, and we'll be able to then see the two of them in the tree. And wouldn't that just make for the most magical scene as the two of them lounge with the sun setting? And that sun is just dipping now below the horizon, unfortunately, which means that it's starting to lose a little bit of color, but was still really nice while it lasted, that's for sure. But that camouflage amazes me. To see that it just shows you how we must drive past leopards all the time. If you had to drive on the road, there is not a hope that you would ever see that. If it wasn't for them going across these sandy roads, you really would not see that. It took us how long to find him just with a camera punched in. So you can imagine driving along how difficult it must be to spot. And if he lies flat, there is no chance that you're going to see that leopard. I think let's have a look at Thandi while we have these beautiful visuals of her and our naughty little Thamba is hiding in the grass, because that scene right there is as good as it gets. You've got that sun, clouds, marula tree, and a beautiful female leopard in it. Like I say, it doesn't get much better than that. Very cool. Like I say, not the worst way to end the day or start the work week. What do you think, Ferg? Not a bad Monday afternoon?
Super Monday.
Super Monday. And to think some poor souls are sitting in traffic somewhere on William Nicol, Ferg, or on what's a big road in Cape Town that's got lots of traffic on it?
All of them.
All of them, yes. All the roads in Cape Town do have a lot of traffic. Just think that some of them are sitting in that while you're busy sitting with a leopard in the sunset is really a very, very cool feeling. Sorry for those people that are in traffic, but for us, it is so special to finish our days with sights like that.
You are in traffic, why on earth are you watching?
Well, if I was in traffic, I would watch this. It would be a good way to pass the time. Wouldn't you think, Ferg? I think so.
Add something into the disclaimer.
We'll have to add something into this disclaimer. Please do not drive and watch Safari live. Yes, I would say if you're driving, don't do that. But if you're in traffic and gridlocked on a highway somewhere, I would say that it's not the worst way to spend your afternoon. But that scene right there is magical. Well done, Ferg. You're getting the hang of this new camera, aren't you? There we go. Well done. There we go. Well done. Now, it's interesting to see the sort of distances that Thandi has been covering the last few weeks. We've seen her quite a lot in Djuma and spending a lot of time sort of going quite far north in Djuma since we've had this disappearance of Karula. And I wonder if she's not just checking the sort of area and seeing if potentially there could be some sort of a gap in a territory that is now opened up that she can potentially take. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens over the next few weeks and months, and whether or not Thandi actually becomes a lot more permanent sort of fixture on Djuma than sticking to this eastern side. She's been spending a lot of time around Chitwa and always has. There's been raised a number of cubs in this area and always used Chitwa as a sort of part of her territory, but it's going to be interesting now with sort of Karula disappearing if she's going to not shift a little bit more to the sort of west and northwest. I don't think she's actually been seen since she left her mom that far into Djuma. The other day, Jamie left her, she was on Elephant Carcass, which is quite a long way in. It's much further than I would have thought, so I'm quite surprised that she would have been that far up. And they must have had a kill there as well, because both her and Thamba's tracks stayed in that area for a while, and it was only 2 days later that we found their tracks actually leaving the property. So I would imagine that they must have had a meal there somewhere, and that was a few days ago, and since then they've definitely eaten, because her belly has got a little bulge to it as well. Now Thamba, I have no idea if he got any food, because he's just so flat in the grass at this stage. It's almost impossible to see him. But she's fast. So you can see every now and then one eye just opens up. Right, now we're going to sort of stay with these two, because really it is the most magical scene. And while we do that, let's go across to James, who's reflecting on the magic of the sunset.
Now that was a very clever link. You see, I am indeed reflecting as we show you the reflection. Get it? Get it? Ha ha ha! Reflection of the clouds in the surface of the Vuyatela or Djuma Dam. And yes, it was a magnificent sunset, and Jamie's highing her way up onto quarantine. I think she'll probably get another good view. That is the Vuyatela camp that you could come and visit if you wanted to. You would be driven around by Taxon or Aubrey, famous people of Safari Live, and hopefully see some of our characters. So, well, come on then. It'd be nice to see you. You can come see us too. We'll show you around where we live. Then we've got some tortues d'eau douce over there. Those are terrapins, everybody. Les tortues d'eau douce. Thank you very much, Seb. Seb's just taught me that in French. That means the freshwater turtle. Those are terrapins, and I imagine getting fairly unpleasant for terrapins around about this time. It's cold, it's windy, there's no heat in the water, there's no heat out of the water, so they're going to have to find somewhere nice and sort of, I don't know, attempt to find a sheltered and safe place, most of all, where they can go into a torpor. They can shut down their metabolisms a little bit. Righty, we're going to make our way sort of towards quarantine and back home. We might not see you again. If we don't, I'm sorry, goodbye. But we'll hand you over to Tristan and his magical leopards down to the far east.
Well, we are still with this leopard, and isn't that just so good? She's still fast asleep, and I suspect she will be like this for quite a while still, until it gets very dark. I don't think she's going to be doing too much moving at this stage. She's really kind of gotten herself very comfortable, and the fact of the matter is that both are like, oh, and I say that, and now she decides to wake up. If she yawns, that might be a sign. Now I'm going to try and just go around, because she's now positioned herself in a way where she's facing the opposite way. Now we've got to just be careful of little Thamba, who's somewhere in this area. Hello, boy. Now, he's just off to our left, but he's still in these thickets. Hello, boy. There we go. You can see, look at that camouflage. It is incredible. Oh, Joshua, you're asking what is the average number of cubs a leopard will give birth to. Well, I don't know if you're asking at one time or in their lifespan, but if we're asking one time, then the average is around 2, sometimes 3 or 4, but it is sort of 2 normally. And then if we're talking about in terms of their whole lifespan, well, we know Karula had 11 cubs, which is a phenomenal number of cubs. A lot of other females will actually have more cubs but don't raise them successfully. She just raised so many successfully that ended up with a situation where she was sort of had a little bit fewer, but I think Shadow has probably had double the amount of cubs. It just unfortunately hasn't raised many of them to adulthood. But in terms of litter sizes, 2 is an average for this area. You will get 1 or 3 sometimes, just depends on the situation. But wow, isn't that amazing? Still sitting in the marula. Now I thought she was going to face the other side, but she's now put her head back this side, and so she's just sort of peering off into the distance at this stage. I don't think she's awake just yet. Those paws haven't come up, and I know there's a branch in the way, Ferg. I'm sorry. It was nice to see little Thamba here because his eyes are so beautiful. But there we go. No, girl, are you going to wake up? It looks like her eyes are open, which is probably not a bad sign. Yes, that one eye is definitely open, so I would imagine that she might start to think about moving now. But now that we're quite close to Thamba, I can see his belly's quite full too. So I don't know if they don't have a carcass here somewhere. I don't see it on the tree, but there's definitely a sign that his belly's quite full as well. You can see it quite swollen in the grass there. Hello, boy. He is so pretty, this boy. Fast becoming one of my favorites. Yes, we're talking about you. Hello. You really are one of the most beautiful leopards I've ever seen. Very, very cute. So, Lady Starfire, you're wondering if a female leopard would kill the cubs of another female leopard if she was denning in that leopard's territory. So hypothetically, let's say Shadow with her cubs and Thandi came across them. It could happen. It's happened before, and females will sometimes kill those cubs, but generally it's more the males that do it than anything else. But a female will do it from time to time, so it does happen. Oh, hello, beautiful boy. His markings around his eyes are so dark. It's going to be a very, very, very pretty male when he's older, and I think he's going to be quite an intimidating guy. When he looks at you with those dark eyes later in life, it's going to be very, very tough to not sort of be intimidated by that. Now, of course, he's going to close his eyes and fall asleep. Are you tired, my boy? Is that big full belly weighing you down? Oh, shame. So cute. You're getting very big as well. I was just looking at him now, kind of next to the car, because he's quite close to the car at this stage, and he really is getting quite large. His paws and his sort of grown into his ears quite a bit recently as well. The ears don't look nearly as big as they did at one stage, so he is putting on quite a bit of size. And the other thing that is sort of striking about him is the richness of the color on his coat. He's got a very sort of golden color, particularly on that neck area. It's very, very gold. And often you'll find this with males. Males sometimes do get these much more golden coats than what the females do. The females often get a yellow colored coat, whereas the males, that sort of deep gold color. And I think a lot of ladies are going to be after you when you're a bit older, young man. Gremlins General, you're wondering what age would a leopard get used to sleeping in trees? Well, from 3 months old, they start to really know how to climb as well as be able to lie in the boughs of a tree. And so you'll find from 3 months they're already quite at home in there. They can already start climbing at around sort of 8 weeks, but it just takes a little bit longer to actually get used to being up there and being a bit graceful. The first few times they try, they often fall and all kinds of other things as they learn this sort of balance and using their claws and their tail to their advantage. And so once they reach 3 months, then generally they're pretty good at being able to sort of maneuver themselves around. Now I'm going to just try go around and see Thandi one last time before we make space, because there are a number of other vehicles that do want to come into this area and see these two beautiful leopards. So we'll quickly just go around and get one last look at Thandi and get one last sort of visual of her before we decide to go out. Now, hopefully, I was just doing a big loop round because I don't want to scare little Thamba out of where he was lying. I don't see any carcass around here, but they definitely have full bellies. So they've fed really well in the last day, that's for sure. Hopefully we'll get her looking this way, and typical is she's now looked the other way again. As we come round, she's decided to look the other way. Really, my girl? Are you going to be like that this afternoon? It's a pity because it really is very pretty from this angle. If she looked at us, it would be fantastic. But alas, she's now looking the other side again. And I wonder with maybe the spotlights on that side, she might just adjust and look this way one more time. But that is sheer comfort right there. She's about as comfortable as you could ever be. And it's so nice just to sit and listen to the sort of sounds at this time of the night. And fortunately there's lots of cameras clicking. Other than that though, it is very, very still. And this leopard in the tree, it almost just adds to that when it's still like this. So it would be really nice if it just got a little quieter and all the sort of daylight birds just quietened down, and if the camera stopped clicking for 1 second, it would also be quite nice just to enjoy this sort of scene. And I really am surprised that she's up there this afternoon with the wind that we've had. And it's quite blustery, which is generally not great sort of conditions for a leopard to be up. They don't really like that cold wind blowing in their face, but maybe with that big fat tummy that she's got, with that fat belly she's probably producing quite a bit of heat now. Sorry, I just heard something about Tingana on the radio, so I was just wondering where he is. And apparently he's also not too far from here, and it's got a big fat belly too, so I wonder if he didn't steal from these two leopards, and that's why they don't have the most massive of bellies, but they're still quite full. I wouldn't be surprised if he managed to steal something from them. Come on, girl, give us one last look before we leave. Right, so I think we're going to have to unfortunately leave them and let them carry on with their evening of lounging in the trees. It's, like I say, quite a few cars that do want to come, particularly because she is up in the tree. It's not something that is always seen. You know, everyone always thinks leopards are in trees every single minute of the day, and it's not always the case. Leopards spend most of their time down on the ground. They're actually only up in trees sort of a small percentage of their time, and so that because she's up, like I say, a lot of other people want to actually see her, so I'm going to have to let them know on the radio and call them in. Now that paw is beautiful, especially with that bit of highlight of that spotlight. Very, very pretty indeed. You can see actually how small the sort of pads are in comparison to the actual paw itself. The pads are very, very little and lots of fur around it. So often we see the size of these feet and we think, you know, the tracks look so small in comparison. Well, you can see why the actual pads themselves are much smaller than what the foot is. There's lots of fur around them. Right, so while we kind of get out of here and get on our way and see if maybe we can't find out where Tingana is, let's go across to Jamie and see how she's doing.
I'm doing wonderfully. I'm back with our lions, and we've timed it perfectly as they are just waking up, feeling playful and full of life, and apparently enjoying chewing on a stick. I'm just waiting. We are going to move into a better position in a moment. I'm just waiting for 2 vehicles to move out, and then we can make our way in. The bush is full of toys, if you know where to look. If your siblings aren't feeling particularly playful. Sorry, hold on everybody. I'm just going to wait for this vehicle to move. Hold on. Okay, we're gonna zip in there. Whoa, watch out. Thanks, guys. One of our viewers on the back of one of the large vehicles. Oh goodness, these lines are up. and moving. And the good news is they're moving back further into Djuma. It doesn't look as though they're going to go into Simbambili, which was my big worry. We're right close to the boundary. Hi guys, thank you. Awesome. Perfect. Look at this. I see that, thank you. Look over there, Craig. They're climbing up into the fallen tree. Oh, apparently, as I said that, it changed its mind. These cubs have been so playful recently. Jumping up and down in trees. Tristan said he had an amazing morning with them not so long ago. Tad B, welcome to the Sunset Safari with our incredible Nkuhumas. You want to know what their name means. Their name is the local language name for a tree known as the brown ivory tree. And it's a type of tree that at some point we will show you on our live safari drive. There aren't any near me at the moment, or otherwise I would show you. It's quite an uncommon tree. We don't see that many of them in this particular area. But the Nkuhuma tree, or a brown ivory tree, that's where the pride gets its name. So a lot of the prides here are named for the areas that they found in or are originally from. But our lions are getting up. Tristan's leopard is already up and on the move.
So she's just come down to the lowest branch now, and isn't that beautiful? Luckily with Tingana being around, it meant that we got to stay a little bit longer with her. But look at that. That is about as good a leopard sort of sighting as one could ever wish for. It would be really, really good to actually get some pictures of her there, because that is great. For those of you that do screenshots, that is where you are aiming. That is very, very, very cool. And it's as good as a leopard shot as you're ever going to get. Now she's going to descend the tree. So let's see. Here we go. And down she should come on the side of the tree. No, you've used the wrong way, girl. I wonder if that means little Thamba is going to come up now. Here she goes. And she's going to slink through the grass now. There we go. She's just moving off. See, that belly is quite full now. Now you can see it a lot better that she's out the tree. Definitely got quite a full tummy. Striding off now. Little Thamba, I don't know where he is and whether or not he's coming, but we're going to just see if he doesn't come past and see where he goes, and we'll let Thandi carry on and these two vehicles follow her, because I think he might come and follow his mother. Let's just go back a little bit. Wonder if Thamba is going to stay where he is. Let's have a look quickly. I don't see him moving yet. He's still lying in the grass, so he must have heard his mom come down, but maybe he just doesn't feel like moving. Maybe he knows that mom is now on a hunting mission and that he needs to just stay behind, because I don't think he's actually moved at this stage. Oh, there we go. That's why they're not moving, was because apparently she's made her way to a carcass. Now my earpiece is falling out. So let's see now quickly. Let's go to where she is, because if she does have a carcass, hold on 2 seconds. There we go. So she definitely got a carcass. So there you go. You can see she's busy feeding now at the moment. So what she's got looks like an impala ram, which is a big meal for these two. I can't see if it is a ram. Yes, it is a ram indeed. There comes the horns. So that is a really large meal. And what she might be doing now
is just eating a little bit just to lighten up this carcass and get it so it's light enough that she can then take it to that marula tree and get it up into the tree. But this is fantastic news, because if she can keep this carcass, it means that they'll be here for quite a while. Now there's a vehicle that's just joined the sighting and they haven't seen her, so I'm going to make a bit of space for them to allow them to come through. Right, now while we try and sort of sort out all the vehicles here and get everybody into the right positions, let's go across to Jamie, who I believe is still with the Nkuhumas and are beginning to wake up and play.
They are indeed getting up and playing, but I am doing exactly what Tristan was doing, which is getting all the vehicles sorted and into position. But we seem to be on top of things for now. Oh, these cubs. It's so special because the last few times, the times that I spent with the Nkuhumas, the cubs were fully recovered from their white muscle disease, and this is quite a long story, but I'll try and keep it as short as possible. Suffice to say, during the drought, the cubs were not well at all, and 2 of them actually didn't make it. Oh, you're going to get into trouble. And 6 of the cubs did survive, but for a long time they were very mangy and not very healthy at all, and when we did see them, they weren't playful. They were skittish and hiding in thickets, and they just weren't themselves, which is why I'm so happy to see them playing like this. It's really lovely. Really, really special. Now, Mary, you want to know, while we watch our cubs playing in trees, you want to know in a pride who leads the hunting. You'll find that all of the lionesses will take initiative. Often, the older female will be the one with the most experience, and she'll know how to go about the whole thing and the whole process. But I've noticed, particularly when you get young females of just reaching adult age, they often initiate the hunt. But there's no set leader. There's no set lion that takes responsibility each and every single time. These lions work so well as a team. They don't need a leader. They just know what's expected of them. It's phenomenal to watch. Everybody just seems to know where to go, and that of course comes from hours of play like this, getting to know each other so well that they can predict their every move. Now often, what you'll find is that these cubs at this age, they want to help. They really, really want to help. Their instincts tell them to help with the hunt, but as a result, they tend to mess it up. The lionesses are trying to stalk something, and the cubs just have no technique or tact, and they come bumbling straight in and they upset the apple cart. I've seen it so many more times than I can count. That does frequently happen. Our lions have settled for now. They're going to be looking for their dinner shortly, which is something that Thandi doesn't have to do.
Well, our leopard is tucking in to its gourmet meal with very, very, very much energy at this stage. It's crunching away, and it seems like it's gotten the front shoulder blade, which means that there's probably quite a lot of this carcass is already gone, a lot more than I first thought. So I wonder if she will actually take it up into a tree. I don't think that she will if it's mostly done. It's hard to see from this angle actually how much is left there. There's a rib cage area, and there's a sort of shoulder, but I'm really not sure other than that how much is left. Now, I wonder if she's not going to try and pick it up and take it to a tree. Come on, girl, that would be spectacular. Imagine if we saw her taking it up into the tree. That would be really, really good. But the meat itself looks fairly fresh, so it must have been last night. I suppose it could have been the night before, because of yesterday's weather was so cool and sort of windy that the meat wouldn't have dried very much, although that wind would have sort of dried out the edges. And that meat there is very red still, so I'm thinking probably early hours of this morning, or even during the day today, that this was killed. Can't see how much of the carcass is actually left, and like I say, a big full-grown male impala like that is difficult for this female to get into a tree.
Jantrogen, I hope I said that right. You're wondering if the spotlight bothers them. Well, no, not really. The cats have eyes that are able to adapt quite quickly to the light, so you'll find that the pupil will sort of open up and it will be, or close as quickly as the light is shone on it. So it's funny enough, I actually always wondered about this, and then I spoke to a vet who has studied these things and says that actually it doesn't do too much damage to the eye itself, so it's not too much of a problem. But we try and sort of steer away from it a little bit because we have the capability of putting our cameras into infrared. It's just when we have other vehicles with us, they don't have that ability because our eyes don't see in infrared, and so they then are watching this leopard the only way that they can, and that's with the light. But no, it doesn't affect the leopard. If the leopard was affected by it, you would have found that she would have gotten up and she would have moved away from here. She wouldn't have stayed so close, and she wouldn't then definitely not look directly into the light itself. So it is a sort of situation where she's not phased too much. There you go, you can see she's staring directly at the light and is not worried at all. Right, so we are going to have to make space now because there are some of the guys that do want to come in. So while we get out of here, it's been a fantastic sighting of these two beautiful leopards. Let's go across to Jamie and see if the lions have decided to wake up.
They are wide awake, and one of the cubs has just sidled right past me. There it is, coming across to the right of us. They are most definitely waking up and showing all kinds of signs that they're going to be on the hunt shortly. If only I could convey to them that there's an entire herd of wildebeest on quarantine right outside our camp, it would be wonderful. And one of the lionesses is feeling a little bit lazy. Not all of them have got up yet. And they've scattered themselves. It's quite a tricky area, so we'll just have to wait for them to keep moving into view. Jinlin? No, there's no real ranking within the cubs, or within the sort of the various sets of cubs. The older ones will be stronger, and inevitably that means that at the dinner table, as you know, all lions fight for their own place, even the cubs. So at the dinner table, the older cubs will have slightly more success, and they'll tend to be more dominant. And if you've got a male, which we do in this particular group of cubs, there's 6 cubs here, one of them is a male. If you have a male, he will be bigger. By around about 6 months of age, you're going to start to see the difference in size between the male and the female cubs of the same age. So he will be bigger, and he will start to become sort of more and more dominant at dinner time. But there's no real hierarchy. It's just age and size based. And that will even out once the cubs have grown up. When they become a proper, fully fledged members of their pride. The stillness, the calm before the coming storm. I love this time of day because there's always that sense of expectation. And it seems like just yesterday when Dave and I were sitting with the Nkuhumas in infrared, and these cubs were so tiny. James was in the Mara the first time, so it must have been, when was that, October last year? Sometime around there. The cubs were minuscule, and it was the first time we'd started playing with the infrared technology. I was sitting in the dark, surrounded by Nkuhumas, listening to them roar. I hope they roar tonight. They've been very silent recently. Is there a lion behind that tree? There appears to be. They're all scattered all around us. They've just gone still again. There's a female at the back there. Here we go. Now, Nikesha, you want to know if lions share their territory with leopards. Yes, they do. The territories do overlap. It's not that they're sharing, really. The definition of a territory is basically between animals of the same species. So the lions have their territories, the lion pride is their territory. They'll defend it against other lion prides. And within that lion pride territory, it'll also encompass several territories of leopards. Now the thing is, when lions kill leopards, which does occasionally happen, or when a leopard kills a lion cub, which also occasionally happens. In a situation like that, I'm just showing the vehicle where the lions are. In a situation like that, it's not for territorial reasons, it's for competition reasons, which are subtly different. So all predators will kill another predator if they have the opportunity to do so, particularly, of course, when they're young, because then they're more vulnerable. Here comes another cub, stalking through, who were also active a moment ago. What's happening? Thinking about pouncing on that lioness, and maybe thinking twice about it. Another big yawn. And usually when our big cats yawn like that, when they start to lick themselves, lick their paws, it's a precursor to stepping up and moving off. Now, speaking of the cubs and the hunting, Kat, you want to know if the lion cubs are hunting with the adults now. As we said earlier, they're going with on the hunt, but they're not particularly useful. We've seen Taylor had that incredible sighting with the Nkuhumas and the young buffalo, and the cubs practicing their hunting technique on that poor young buffalo, jumping on its back, trying to learn all about the sort of the mechanics of catching something like a... Thanks, Megs. Wrong radio. I was giving her a confused face because she was just telling me what I was saying. It's nice to hear it twice, though. We're talking about cubs. Yes, so cubs, at the moment, they will be participating, but not particularly well. So they might actually, more than anything else, get in the way. And lionesses have to teach them. Well, they learn from watching the way that the lionesses hunt. And after that, instinct takes over. But it was interesting. I was working years ago with a woman doing her PhD research into lion behavior. And we spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours with the same pride every single day, day after day. And of the hunts that we saw, almost all of them were initiated by the youngest female, who had just reached around about 3 years old, so sexual maturity stage. And she was the one that just kept pushing for the hunt. And I think that instinct is there, and they're still practicing and developing their techniques. And they haven't yet perhaps developed the knowledge as to when not to even bother. I think the older lionesses know exactly when to stop. Alright, I'm going to switch on the lights now. The reason I'm going to do that is there are other vehicles in the sighting, and I think they will feel like they have to keep their lights off because of us. I'm going to switch on the lights so that they can see as well. The cubs are old enough now that it's not a concern. Oh. Tesla, who is 6 years old. Tesla, you wanted to know how I learned to be so brave with lions. You know what, Tesla? I don't think I'm brave at all. I know that these lions aren't going to see me as something that they want to eat or that they want to attack. But I was very lucky, Tesla. Very, very lucky. Because when I grew up, my parents really loved the wild as well, and my grandfather also did. So I spent a lot of time coming to the game reserves when I was a little girl. And I saw lions from when I was very young in the Kruger National Park and in other places. So I was lucky. I think I learned then that I didn't need to be scared of the lions. So I'm not being brave. I just know that they're very, very unlikely to hurt me. But being brave doesn't mean being silly. So we always have to exercise common sense out here. And what I mean by that is I know these lions won't hurt me in the car, but I also know that if I go walking around at night, they could hurt me. And that's why you have to be responsible, and we never go walking around in the bush at night. This is beautiful. Farm dog, the biggest threat, hands down. Here comes, is she gonna, Farm dog, you want to know what is the biggest threat to the lion cub's survival? Absolutely, hands down, at this point, it will be a coalition takeover. That seems to be very, very unlikely at the moment. The Birmingham boys have established themselves particularly well in this area. There's no real threat that is going to come their way anytime soon from any of the... Oh, she's flaming grimacing at the back there. She obviously smelt something interesting. That's that snarling face that she seems to be pulling. She wasn't snarling. It's to draw the scent up into her mouth. So that's the biggest threat to them, because at this age, they are... I lost my train of thought there for a second. These cubs are still too young for the mothers to mate again. So what happens in a coalition takeover is that the male lions come in and they kill each and every single cub that isn't theirs to bring the females back into estrus and to mate with them once again. She stopped behind a tree. Okay. Alrighty then. Where's that lioness? Oh, she's moved to... Here she comes. Quick head rub, and on her way. Go east, go east, go east. Come on, girl, go east. No, that's west. Go east. And coalition takeovers are really sad. It's a sad moment for the lion prides because they lose their cubs. They sometimes lose the females that try to defend their cubs, because male lions, when they do take over a territory, are pumped full of testosterone, and there are casualties of war, so to speak. So if females do protect their cubs, they run the risk of inciting the ire of the males and actually getting killed themselves. And there's a situation playing out at the moment with the Salati, or what was the Salati males. It's now the Salati male. The one Salati male died not so long ago, and he leaves behind a coalition member, and then the pride of lions, the Talamatis, and the Talamatis have cubs with them. Sorry, I'm just checking something. Talamatis have cubs with them at the moment that have been fathered by the Salatis, but now they're severely weakened because there's only one Salati left. So all of the guides recently we've been talking about, hopefully he manages to hang on for long enough for those cubs to get to the age where they're safe from being killed by other males. Because apparently the Birmingham boy is pushing further and further north at times towards Manuletti. Debbie, the cubs still don't have a proper roar yet. Their voices haven't fully developed, their bodies haven't fully developed. I think you'd be surprised at how deep their roar would be now, but it still won't be a proper adult roar. And we've seen them growling at a kill, so already we know that they've got serious voices on them, but they're not quite ready yet to start roaring properly. It was so sweet when we watched them roar that time, and they were all going... Meow. Tiny little voices in the dark, trying to match the adults. Oh, girl. Turn left, turn left. Oh, why are you all going west? Don't do that. Okay. Cubs rolling on top of each other. Okay. We're going to have to do some shifting around here, and it's going to be a bit tricky. We're going to have to play leapfrog with the vehicles. So while we do that, let's go back to Tristan, who's made his way all the way back onto Djuma.
Well, we've made our way back, and unfortunately Tingana was a little bit too far south for us to be able to see him, so we left him, but I'm sure by tomorrow morning he'll have walked this way. Apparently he is very full bellied. Now, I thought I saw the eyes of a bush baby somewhere here. I did see the eyes of a bush baby. Right. Oh goodness, this is going to be difficult. Ferg, can you see through there? I don't know if you're going to be able to, but maybe to the right a little bit, Ferg? In amongst that foliage somewhere is where it was.
In the buffalo or the one behind?
Behind. The quarry bush behind there.
We go forward of it.
Let me go. You can just see its eyes. There, somewhere there. Oof, not going to be easy to see it in that. It's unfortunately gone behind this quarry bush, which means that there's a thick amount of foliage, which doesn't help us in any way, but there was definitely a bush baby in that particular area. I wonder if we go forward a bit, Ferg. Let's try forward. Maybe we can find it. Now, they do like this area. This is a favorite for the bush babies. Oh, no, that gets worse. There it is down at the bottom, but whether or not you're going to be able to see it, Ferg, I'm not quite sure. Maybe let's try around this side, if there's a gap here, potentially. No. No. No, we're not going to be able to find that. Unfortunately, our bush baby has jumped to another tree, and there's no ways we're going to see it in that thicket. I do apologize, guys. It would have been nice to see a bush baby. It's been a few days since I've seen one, so hopefully we'll find another one. We'll just have to try and concentrate and see if we can't find one more. This is a great place to look for them. Lots of big trees here that have sort of thorns on them, and they like those knob thorn areas and these quarry thickets where they can hide out just like that one did, should there be a potential predator somewhere. So it's a bit of a shame we didn't see it, but I'm sure we can find another one. Now, what has disappeared over the last few days has been the chameleons. We really haven't seen too many signs of them. Been looking all over. Oh, hello, little scrub here. Ferg, do you want to play with your IR? With your new camera? Why not? One time that you want your scrub hair to stay on the road so that Fergus can play, it decides to run off the road. Where's it gone, Ferg? Thomas from Canada. Well, first of all, Thomas, before we get into your question, you're just going to see that we're in black and white, and that's because we've gone into infrared mode. So, sorry, not Thomas, sorry, Tanis. I do apologize. So my earpiece is playing up this afternoon and it keeps falling out my ear, so I can't hear very well. You want to know what the smallest animal is? So while I drive around in black and white and we test our infrared on this new camera, the smallest animal, I would have to say, oh, this is a tough one, because there are some very smelly ones when they are dead, but when they are alive, I would say terrapin for me is one of the stinkiest. Really don't like terrapin, the smell of terrapins. It's not very pleasant at all. And then hyenas and lions, if they've been feeding off rotten carcasses like elephant or hippo, they can have the most putrid smell when they walk past you. It is really horrific, and the smell can carry for long. Sometimes you'll be driving down a road and you'll come across the tracks of a lion or a hyena, and you kind of going along and you get hit by this putrid smell before you actually even see them. It's quite horrific. But in terms of secreting their own smell, I think a terrapin for me. The striped polecat can also secrete a pretty horrid smell as well, so that would be for me the two bad ones and the most offensive, I would say. The smell really isn't very pleasant at all. I'm sure Jamie will have had one or two experiences of a terrapin smell. Hopefully she's not getting too many experiences of the lions, because if the lions have eaten and they are sort of passing gas, being behind them like she was earlier is never a very pleasant experience either. Now, I was going to go to the hyena den, but given that we've got those new little ones at the den itself, we're going to try and sort of leave them alone and let them just kind of take it easy and settle in. I don't want to cause too much disruption before they sort of settled in there and we end up with a situation that they move them. Now, Fergus is just busy playing and checking around on the sides here because he's trying to see just how well his camera works in the low light. So you're getting a side view of the bush as we drive. So, Ellie, you're wondering if bush babies are related to lemurs. Well, lemurs are in their own family altogether. The bush babies are related to primates, so they're related to the vervet monkeys and all of that. And I suppose lemurs are too, but they are not in the same family, no. So they are not in any way classed in the same way. They're in their own separate sort of ways, much like a hyena and a wild dog are in their own separate sort of entities. Even though they look quite similar, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are taxonomically the same thing. So they are not at all, and lemurs are completely sort of on their own level, and they're only in one place in the world, so you only find them in Madagascar. So our bush babies unfortunately don't belong to that family. I'm sure they would love to belong to that family. Bush babies, I'm sure, would love the company of lemurs. Lemurs look like such fun animals. I would really do want to go and see them at some stage and see them bouncing around across the roads and just see what they get up to. They really look like they have quite a lot of character, and any animal with a bit of character is always an animal that I would like to see, that's for sure. Now we're just coming up towards Philemon's Dip area, or we've come through Philemon's Dip and now we're going up Philemon's Dip Road towards Quarantine. Oh, bush baby. Maybe we're going to be able to show you guys a bush baby. This one's out in the open for now. There it is. You see it there, Ferg? Oh, it's bouncing. Where did you go? No. Where are you? Oh, there you are. There, I can just see it through that there, Ferg. I don't know if... Oh, where's it gone now? There it is. In the middle of that tree. Oh, it's gone upwards. This is not working out very well for me at all. Just shows you how difficult it is to see these guys because they just jump so far. It's in this thicket there, Ferg. Can you see it? There it goes. There it goes. Look at it. It's like on steroids. It's got hydraulic legs and it jumps all over the place. Maybe if I roll back a bit, Ferg. Hold on. Oh, it's at the bottom of that tree there. There we go. Can you see it, Ferg? Just at the base of the tree, just above the grass. Go in, there we go. There it is moving. Oh, it went up to the side. There we can see its eyes. And finally we get you on screen. It was quite an effort between you and your friend. I mean, quite tough to follow you. But you can see how well they blend in. And if it wasn't for this infrared, it would be really, really tough to see that bush baby in that thicket. But you can see the long tail or fluffy tail that's poking out of the trees there. And there is sort of head moving around. Oh, it's peeking at us around the corner. Now, it is quite difficult because there's not very much light there at all. Are you going to move from behind that little bush for us? I love the size of their eyes. There we go. Oh, there we go. And down into the grass it goes. Well, that was fantastic. Right, so let's finish up there. Ferg, it's been a wonderful afternoon, and thank you all for joining us with our leopards. Let's go across to Jamie and the lions to close out the show.
And for the last basically minute of our sunset safari, we are with the incredible Nkuhumas. Probably the only time I'm allowed to use the adjective incredible. And after their earlier playfulness, they've settled down for a bit of grooming and also affection between the cubs and the females. Now, who knows where they're going to end up tomorrow? Hopefully, for the sunrise safari, they will make their way further onto Djuma, and hopefully they will have managed to catch something. So I'm just going to do the quick goodbyes and thank yous because no one really wants to look at my face when you've got lions. I will see you all tomorrow morning on the sunrise safari, but a big thank you to Craig. Let's watch the lions. They're much nicer than me, especially since we've only got 30 seconds left. Big thank you to Craig for his wonderful camera work, and a thank you to Megs. Megs, who's your D2 this afternoon? Oh, Chantel, of course. I spoke to her twice today. I'm talking nonsense. Chantel in D2, sending through your questions and your comments. Most importantly, thank you to all of you. Thank you for joining me on my last drive for now on Djuma. For tomorrow I shall be on foot. Hopefully the Nkuhumas will be around tomorrow morning. Join us on the sunrise safari to find out.